The moment I realized I had been caught staring at my best friend's wife, my heart dropped like a stone through glass. It happened in the middle of a bright Sunday afternoon, with sunlight pouring through the backyard, children laughing near the garden fence, and everyone around us smiling like nothing dangerous had just been exposed. But across the patio table, Marceline's eyes met mine, calm and unreadable, and when she leaned close enough for only me to hear, she whispered, "I know what you're thinking before I tell you what happened next. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Lifeline Diaries if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of doing the right thing even when your heart is confused." Because sometimes the most dangerous battles are not fought in the streets, but inside a person's own chest, where no one else can see the war. My name is Orien Vale, and for most of my life, I believed loyalty was the one thing I would never fail at. My best friend, Cashin Rowe, had been more than a friend to me. He was the brother life gave me when my own family fell apart. We grew up on the same cracked sidewalks, shared lunches when money was tight, covered for each other during school fights, and promised that no matter what success, failure, love, or grief brought into our lives, we would never become strangers. Cashin was the kind of man who laughed loudly, forgave quickly, and trusted completely. That was what made what happened so painful. He trusted me with the door to his home, a chair at his table, and a place beside his family. And there I was, sitting under his sunlight, unable to understand why I kept looking at his wife. Marceline was not the kind of woman who tried to be noticed. Maybe that was why everyone noticed her. She carried herself quietly, with the softness of someone who had suffered and still chosen grace. She wore simple dresses, kept her hair pinned loosely, and moved through every room like she was trying not to disturb the air. But there was something in her eyes that always stopped me, something tired, deep, and lonely, like a window left open during rain. At first, I told myself I was only worried about her. Cashin had been working longer hours after losing money in a failed business deal, and Marceline seemed thinner, quieter, less bright than before. I told myself my glances were innocent. I told myself I was just reading sadness on her face. But the truth has a way of standing up inside you when you try to bury it. That afternoon, Cashin had invited me over for a small family lunch. His mother was there, his little nephew was running around with a plastic airplane, and Marceline had arranged plates of rice, roasted chicken, salad, and fresh lemonade on the outdoor table. It was daytime, warm and golden, the kind of afternoon that should have felt safe. Cashin kept telling stories from our teenage years, and everyone laughed, but I noticed Marceline smiling without really being present. She would glance at Cashin, then at the gate, then at the half-empty glass in her hand. I looked once, then twice, then too long. That was when she caught me, when she whispered, "I know what you're thinking." Shame burned through me so hard I could barely breathe. I thought she had seen the weakness I hated in myself. I thought she was about to call me disgusting, to expose me, to destroy the friendship I had built my whole life around. But she did not look angry. She looked afraid. Then she placed a folded paper napkin beside my plate and walked away to refill the lemonade. My fingers trembled as I opened it under the table. Written in small, careful letters were the words, "Please don't tell Cashin yet. I need help." Everything inside me changed in that moment. The guilt, the confusion, the shame, all of it froze. This was not about attraction. This was not about betrayal. This was about a woman silently asking for help in a house full of people who loved her but had stopped seeing her. I looked across the yard at Cashin, laughing with his nephew, completely unaware that his wife was standing at the edge of something she could not say aloud. For the rest of the lunch, I barely spoke. Marceline never looked at me again, but her message stayed in my palm like a burning coal. After everyone finished eating, Cashin asked me to help him carry extra chairs back into the garage. The garage door was open, sunlight spilling across old boxes and tools. He talked about work, bills, and how tired he was, but there was a hardness in his voice I had not heard before. He said marriage was not what people imagined, that some days silence grew so thick between two people it felt like another person living in the house. I wanted to ask him what was happening. I wanted to tell him about the napkin. But Marceline's words held me back. Please don't tell Cashin yet. I need help. When I left that day, the sky was still bright. I drove aimlessly through town, past bakeries, schoolyards, and people watering their lawns, while my mind replayed every glance, every silence, every hidden sadness I had ignored. By the next morning, I sent Marceline a simple message asking if she was safe. She replied hours later with only one sentence: "I am safe, but I am disappearing." That we met 2 days later at a public botanical garden during the afternoon. I chose the place because it was open, peaceful, and impossible to misunderstand. She arrived wearing a pale blue scarf and sunglasses, though the sunlight was gentle. We sat on separate benches near a fountain where families walked by with strollers and paper cups of ice cream. She did not cry at first. She spoke quietly, almost politely, as if explaining someone else's life. She told me Cashin had not hurt her with his hands, but grief had made him cruel in softer ways. After the business failure, he stopped sleeping, stopped listening, stopped seeing her as a partner. He snapped at small things, apologized, then repeated them. She had lost a pregnancy months earlier, and they had never mourned it together. Cashin drowned himself in work and shame. Marceline drowned herself in silence. As she spoke, my own shame shifted into sorrow. I had mistaken loneliness for beauty, pain for mystery, and silence for elegance. I had been stealing glances because something in her sadness reflected my own. I had lost my mother the year before and never admitted how empty I felt. Maybe I was not drawn to Marceline in the way I feared. Maybe I was drawn to the part of her that looked like someone standing in the same invisible storm. I told her the truth that afternoon. I told her I had been wrong to look at her in a way that made my heart question itself, but I also told her I would not cross a line that would destroy Cashin or disrespect her. I said if she needed help, it had to be help that led toward healing, not secrecy. She listened with tears gathering behind her sunglasses. For the first time, she admitted she did not want to leave Cashin. She wanted him back. Not the successful man, not the loud man, not the man everyone admired, but the gentle boy he used to be before failure convinced him he was worthless. So I did the hardest thing I had ever done. I invited Cashin to lunch the next day, under the honest brightness of noon. We sat outside a small cafe where the street was busy and the sunlight left no room for hiding. I did not mention the napkin at first. I did not accuse him. I simply asked when he had last truly asked his wife if she was okay. Cashin laughed it off, then grew irritated, then quiet. His face changed slowly, like a wall cracking from the inside. I told him I was worried about both of them. I told him he was losing himself and taking Marceline with him. At first, he pushed back. He said I did not understand pressure, debt, failure, the humiliation of watching plans collapse. Then his voice broke. In all the years I had known Cashin, I had only seen him cry once, when we were 16 and his father left. But that afternoon, in front of strangers and passing cars, my best friend covered his face and cried like someone who had been holding up a roof with bleeding hands. He said he felt like a ruined man. He said every time Marceline looked at him kindly, it made him hate himself more because he believed he no longer deserved kindness. That evening, still before sunset, Cashin went home early. I did not go with him. That was their door to open, not mine. Later, Marceline sent me one message. He asked me about the baby. We are talking. Thank you. The weeks that followed were not magical. Healing never is. Cashin started therapy. Marceline joined him after a few sessions. They began taking walks every morning before work, not to solve everything, but to remember how to stand beside each other. Some days they fought. Some days Marceline stayed with her aunt for space. Some days Cashin called me and said he was afraid she would never forgive him. I told him forgiveness was not a door someone owed him. It was a garden he had to water with patience, honesty, and changed behavior. As for me, I had to face my own loneliness. I stopped visiting their house for a while, not because I did not care, but because care without boundaries can become selfish. I started visiting my mother's grave during the day, bringing yellow flowers because she used to love sunlight in simple things. I finally admitted to myself that grief had made me hungry for warmth anywhere I could find it, even in places I had no right to reach for. That realization hurt, but it also saved me. 3 months later, Cashin invited me to a small afternoon picnic at the same backyard where everything had begun. I almost refused, but he insisted. When I arrived, the yard looked different. Not richer, not perfect, just alive. There were new herbs growing near the fence, fresh cushions on the chairs, and Marceline was laughing softly while helping Cashin's nephew pour juice into paper cups. Cashin looked tired, but lighter. Marceline looked at peace in a way I had never seen before. Not because everything was fixed, but because the silence had finally been broken. At one point, while Cashin was setting plates on the table, Marceline walked past me and paused. In the bright afternoon air, with children laughing nearby and wind moving through the trees, she said quietly that the day she whispered to me, she was not trying to accuse me. She had seen something in my eyes that looked like recognition, not desire. She said lonely people sometimes notice lonely people. Then she thanked me for choosing honor when secrecy would have been easier. I could not speak for a moment. I only nodded, because some moments are too sacred for many words. Near the end of the picnic, Cashin raised his glass of lemonade and joked that some friends are annoying enough to save your marriage. Everyone laughed, but his eyes were wet. Mine were too. Because I knew how close we had all come to losing something precious. Not through one dramatic act, but through 1,000 quiet failures to speak, to listen, to grieve, to forgive. And if this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes people can change, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Lifeline Diaries so more stories of kindness, healing, and second chances can reach the people who need them most. Special request. Comment: choose honor if you believe true love is not taking what you want, but protecting what is sacred. That day, as the sun lowered gently but the world still glowed with daylight, I understood something I would carry forever. The heart can be confused, wounded, and lonely, but it can still choose the right path. I had been caught stealing glances, but what Marceline saw was not a villain. She saw a broken man standing at the edge of a choice. And by grace, friendship, and one whispered sentence, that choice did not destroy us. It changed us. It reminded Cashin how to love his wife, reminded Marceline that her pain deserved to be heard, and reminded me that loyalty is not proven when life is easy. Loyalty is proven in the moment temptation, sorrow, and silence ask you to betray who you are, and you choose instead to become better.